Hey, welcome to The Gathering Greenhouse, a podcast to help us grow together. I'm David, and you'll notice Steve's not here, John's not here, because today we have a special VIP experience, a very interesting person. This is my friend Bill Montgomery, and let's see, you are the CEO and the president of River Radio Ministries in Columbus.
Correct.
But more importantly, you're a graduate of Cedarville University.
It's true.
And you were there when I was there.
We were contemporaries there together. Yes, sir.
Yes. And I don't remember anything bad that you did. And I assume you don't remember anything.
I don't remember a bad thing you did. I don't think you did a bad thing.
I don't think I did. I think I was probably the perfect student.
That's the story we're going with.
And we're sticking to it. So welcome, Bill.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. It's great to see you.
Yeah. So how come you're way over here from Columbus?
So I, once a week, most semesters of the school year, teach a class over at Cedarville University in the evening. So the dreaded night class, it's in their broadcasting digital media program, and I teach a management class one semester and a sales class another semester.
Awesome. And you've been in broadcasting your whole life?
Pretty much. Made a majors change my freshman year when I was quickly washing out of my biology pre-physical therapy major. And
I didn't know that.
Yes. And somehow found the new student radio station they were launching, and I got hooked and literally have been in radio since then. So over 30 years.
Fantastic. Was that WSRN?
It was WSRN. They've had a couple iterations since then.
Steel trap.
That is amazing. That's very impressive. They are Resound Radio now, but they had a U99 in the middle of those two, but student radio still going strong at Cedarville.
All right. Can you listen to that if you're in the area?
Yeah.
If you even hear?
Oh yeah, they have a mobile app. It's a streaming only station.
I always forget about that.
Yeah, there's mobile apps. You know any radio station worth its salt, you can stream it on their website. You can get their mobile app, so you don't even need to go over the air. But
yeah, so that kind of like invalidates my next question. Sometimes I forget things, and I'm like, I think radio.
Yes.
And I'm like, you got to tune it in on the car, or you got your little, your radio at home, but nobody has a radio at home anymore. So I was going to actually ask you, so like, can people listen to the River Radio here in Dayton? And of course the answer is yes, because we can stream it.
Yes, but not through your car radio. You cannot do that.
No.
There's some good Christian radio in town here, and so yeah, we do not have we now have stations in a lot of part of the state. Mm-hmm. I think we're up to 13 or 14. We've got one that we're putting on the air in Logan sometime in the next couple of weeks. But we are not in the Dayton area.
See, I'm really tempted to just go off the rails at this point, and I kind of want to just talk about the whole streaming thing.
Go for it. So it's a conversation we have all the time.
So the internet was the end of print journalism.
Very much.
By the way, my sophomore year, one of my professors really tried to get me to go into journalism. And I am so glad. I'm so glad that I did not do that.
For real.
So is streaming eventually going to be the end of radio, or is radio always going to have kind of a niche?
The death of radio has been predicted probably the last 20 years. Mm-hmm. Here is what I will tell you, and I was just at a conference. Edison Research does a lot of good research on this. There's a number of other folks that do. Radio through the car or through, over the air, still 80 to 90% of people consume that during the typical week.
Okay.
But the amount of hours is changing because of all of the fragmentation. So now people are also, even in their car, they're listening to the radio, they're listening to their streaming service on their phone, Apple Music or Spotify or whatever that is. They're listening to podcasts and things of that nature. Yeah. So that is fragmenting. They're also, streaming apps are becoming big for radio stations so that, okay, if I listen to the radio, I can listen to it anywhere. So I can listen to my River Radio app when I'm in Dayton And then so I'm listening to it more, and it's on your smart home devices as well. So radio, as long as I think people are curating music well, if they're music or curating good talk, if they are, people talk about, the good of radio is local. I think the good of radio is still, while local is somewhat important, people are looking for good connection, good community. If I find that's my people, that's my tribe, that's what they're looking for. If you're not giving me what I want, local's not good enough.
Sure.
I'll listen to something national.
And there's old people like me who it's like, we want content,
yes,
but we want convenience too.
Yes.
And for me, it's still easier to put the radio on.
Exactly. I don't have to plug in or Bluetooth in, or I don't have to do all that.
Yes, mess with all that.
Exactly. Yeah, I still even drive on cross-country vacations and I'll hit the seek button just to go, what else is on? Oh, what can I find?
Yeah. So, all right. So you guys have your own app.
We do.
Okay. Download it at any of the app stores.
Any app store, River Radio, you'll find us.
And what's the experience going to be like if I stream the River Radio app?
One of the nice things, because we're in a number of regions across Ohio, we're down in Chillicothe, we're over in Newark, Zanesville, we're in Columbus, we're up in Mansfield, we're in Bellefontaine, Tiffin, Findlay, Kenton, Ashland, Worcester, Canton.
I didn't know there were that many cities in Ohio.
I know, there are. It's crazy. I didn't. Wow. I wasn't aware until we started. We've acquired, we've merged, we've done a couple things. So we have all of that. When you load up the app, if you go to the menu, you can pick what experience do you want. And so the music and the DJs are the same across all of those. But then there is content, commercials, underwriting, as well as local event content that is customized depending on what region you're in.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. And then just describe the music you guys play.
We are what is currently called contemporary Christian music.
Is it still called that?
It is still called that, although the genre has really changed. Like the artists, when we were in college, the Point of Grace and For Him and Michael W. Smith. Of course, he's still around. He I think goes nowhere. He doesn't age.
Do you think it's still him, or is it animatronics, like a wax figure?
Yeah. We need to go to Disney are friends forever. It's funny. One of our big artists for King and Country, just for their recent movie that they did, brought back a Smitty song from the time when we were in school, Place in This World, and he sings on it.
Looking for a reason.
Roaming through the night to find my place in this world. And the thing is, they redid it. It's fantastic. And he gets to sing on it a little bit, does a great job. But, I would say the genre has broadened, depending on what station you're listening to and how they curate it. But it's a lot more diverse in the styles of music. Yeah. You get a lot more praise and worship type of stuff in there. The Maverick City stuff. Brandon Lake is huge, and that's not exactly like what we did. Forrest Frank. Again, somebody that if your folks have heard of, more of a poppy hip hop sound. So you get a lot more of that. And then some of the more traditional artists like the Mercy Me's and the Casting Crowns, the occasional Stephen Curtis. He's still making music, but not as much Stephen Curtis Chapman. The genre a lot. It has widened a lot, and you're going to hear a lot of diversity in the style and feel. And groups like For King and Country, they're almost not even describable, and their stuff gets played mainstream. A number of the artists get played on mainstream radio because it's just different, unique, and sounds really good.
All right, I don't know music. I'm not a musical person, so I mean most of what I listen to is talk radio.
That's fair.
So if you were to tell me what the number one song on CCM in America is right now, I'd have no idea who it is. Who is it?
The number one song right now, and it's funny, yesterday I knew this, and my brain, because I'm old, it's a song by a brand new artist, and it is The Truth by... It's going to hit me midway through. I'm going to say a name.
Somebody will put it in the comments.
Exactly. They will. Megan Woods.
Megan
The
Woods.
Truth.
All right.
And it's a really
it must
big
be a
song.
good song if it's number one.
Yes, it is.
So,
it is.
All right. So I perceive, and here's where I could be wrong because I'm not a music guy. I perceive there's been a real shift in music since I was younger. And you named the groups that we grew up with. That it seems like Christian music has shifted from more of a performance mentality to a join us in worship mentality. And a lot more of the songs are sing-along songs. Not good or bad, but it makes good for like the worship conferences because that wasn't a thing for us.
No.
Right? Is that a shift that's happened?
I would say it has happened significantly. And it's funny. I was just listening to a podcast that is kind of with all the older CCM artists that you and I might have been familiar with. One of the guys from For Him, and he was interviewing Brian Duncan, who had been around forever. Sweet Comfort Band, and then
that guy's voice.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah.
And he literally talked about the fact that, you know, it's not the storytelling that existed in songs the way you and I remember. And I think there is some of that, but I you know, where some artists are going back into that or doing a little bit of that, but it is going to a lot of worship. And as you go to concerts, at some point, almost any artist, even if they're doing more of the story, it's like, hey, we're going to worship all together collectively now.
Yeah.
That is very much a shift.
Yeah, which is very cool.
Yes.
So here's my question then. David Meese. Like you talk about the storytelling guys, right? So I just posted this on my Facebook last week because I've had this song stuck in my head because last week's sermon was on forgiveness.
Okay.
So the David Meese song, Forgiven, great song. Is there a David Meese out there now who's I call him the Barry Manilow of Christian music because most of his songs have that, like you start really slow and you build and it gets majestic and big and then he brings it back down and resolves it.
Yeah, boy. So, that's good. I love David Meese. He played at our my senior year in Columbus. Huge David Meese
Which I would have been a sophomore, so not allowed to go.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that. He was great.
I actually never went to junior, senior at Cedarville.
I'm not sure that surprises me.
I had tickets my senior year.
You did?
I did. Didn't make it.
Didn't go. Oh. Is there an artist like that right now? I mean, potentially. Stars Go Dim.
Okay.
Chris Cleveland is the lead singer for them, and he's just put out a new album, and he's got some of that. Dan Bremnes, who's not as well known, he's got some of that as well, and those guys can really bring the highs and the you know, really strong musical quality. You know, he's another one, but it's hard to say there's anybody quite like David Meese out there.
Well, how could there be? Right?
That's fair.
And speaking of nobody like them, here's a big question for you.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm going to give you a second to think about it because it's a tough one. Who is the Mount Rushmore of Christian music? And I'm going to give you a second to think, and I'll give you mine while you think about yours. But I've had time to think about it.
You have? Oh, I don't think I've ever thought about it. That's a great question.
So Mount Rushmore of Christian music for me.
Yes.
It's Keith Green.
Oh, come on.
Bill Gaither. I'm not a huge fan, but you got to put him there, right?
Boy, you probably do.
Because you kind of like you get all of his people that way, right?
That's true.
So
that's true.
Those two guys. The next one's going to be controversial, but I'm going with it. Striper.
Wow.
I mean, those guys, you go back and listen to them now. They were better than they got credit for. Of course, our parents all hated them. So we had to listen to them in secret.
That style of music was completely off limits where now no parent would care that their kid was listening to Striper.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And then my fourth one, and again, I don't have anything in the modern era.
Yes.
As you already mentioned him, Stephen Curtis Chapman.
Okay.
I think he's the bridge from like Striper to what we have now.
Wow.
So I kind of like, I wouldn't have listened to him back then, one of my favorites, but I recognize the impact I think he had on Christian music. So that's my Mount Rushmore.
I love that. Mine will probably, like, you ask me in a different mood at a different time, it'll probably be radically different. I think it's hard to say that Keith Green is not on there. I'm a huge Keith Green guy. I really think Michael W. Smith has to be on there.
I went back and forth on that one.
And you only get 4 on a Mount Rushmore, which is hard.
Right. Yep.
I really think, and part of that is staying power too. And another one I would put in there is probably Amy Grant. Because of the staying power, again, of generations and generations.
See, I almost asked the question like this. I almost said, who's your Mount Rushmore, and why is Keith Green on it, and why isn't Amy Grant on it?
And I have not been the hugest Amy Grant fan over the years. Sure. I appreciate what she does. I mean, you could probably interchange her with somebody like CeCe Winans, who was huge.
Yeah.
She was big back in our era, and she has now had a resurgence where she's winning Grammys. I mean, she's done some unbelievable stuff
But
recently.
what's the deal with those parents? BB and CC. Come on.
I don't know.
Was there a Dee Dee?
Not that I'm aware of. There should have been.
Okay.
That's the name that's probably the least controversial of BB and CC. I've actually known a Dee Dee. I've never known a BB or a CC.
Nope. Yep.
Actually, I've known a CC now that I think about it. I take that back. So there's three. Boy, maybe Russ Taff would be another name. But boy, there. I think it's hard to leave off Stephen Curtis. Yeah. I'm a big. I probably wouldn't put Striper. I might put Skillet.
But, what about Petra?
Boy, you could put Petra on there. Yes, you could.
I was back and forth. Petra or Striper?
Man. Yes.
I just like Striper better. That's why I picked them.
Yes.
Yeah.
You could probably make a great argument between Petra, Striper, and maybe Skillet. I'm a big Skillet fan.
Yeah.
And they've now kind of gone generationally.
What about the Newsboys?
That is an interesting band. They've just installed a new lead singer, the third one, and here we go
Whose
again.
faces do you put on the Mount Rushmore if you do the Newsboys?
Yeah, do you put Peter Furler or do you put Michael Tate, who was oddly enough, and people don't know, he was with the Newsboys longer than he was with DC Talk.
Was he
Which,
really?
by the way, you could probably put Toby Mac on the Mount Rushmore too. Yeah. I mean, how do you leave Toby Mac off the Mount Rushmore?
I think you put DC Talk on. That way you get both of them.
I love that.
Yeah.
And then you could just across all.
I think we just need a bigger Mount Rushmore.
Maybe we could do the Last Supper of Christian. That's probably inappropriate.
I don't know. You saw what happened at the Olympics. I think we should probably stay away from that one.
We need to leave that alone altogether. That's wise.
That is interesting, though. What if you did like the 12 disciples?
Okay, we could do that.
Which is the Last Supper.
Yeah. It would just make it
the 12 disciples of. I like that idea
for sure.
All right, so tell me this: you're a guy. Music's been a big part of your life,
very much,
and in radio and all that. What are the benefits of listening to Christian music? Like somebody says to me, why should I listen to Christian music? I mean, we're not legalistic. We don't have to say, well, you can't listen to the devil music.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say it's the devil's music, but I like some of that other music out there, right?
For sure.
Actually, speaking of Amy Grant, one of mine and Marianne's very first dates was at the UD Arena for Vince Gill.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a connection.
So back in probably like 93, 94.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. So what are the benefits of Christian music? What can somebody get out of it?
It's interesting. I've actually been studying. Studying is a probably too strong of a word. It's not like I have charts and graphs that I'm going to bring out or statistics. But I've been really leaning into that a little bit. I've talked with some other pastors. In fact, I was out with a pastor up over in Plain City recently. And I guess what I would say is this. Now, if it is just, I can't listen to this, it's not my thing, I get it. Sure. Hey, find a genre that you, and the reality is there's Christian artists in just about every genre. But what I know and what our listeners continue to tell us and what I have experienced for myself is, as I am trying to grow my relationship with Christ, one of the things that I need to do is get my mind right. Yep. And I need to get my mind focused on the right things. And I need to clean out the junk that, just as a sinner that is, on a journey of reconciliation to Christ, I need things to just push that out of there. And Christian music, as much as preaching on Sunday morning and Bible study and reading scripture and prayer, it's one more tool in the toolbox of getting my mind and my heart right. And I've had times where I'm listening to Christian music, I'm not thinking of anything, I'm singing along, and all of a sudden I break down weeping. I'm like, I don't know what happened. I don't even have a specific, it's not like a specific thing. And it's just like, wow, God just got a hold of me through this music, through worship to him. And again, I don't think it's bad to, okay, you must always then therefore listen to Christian music. But I think if you have a steady diet of that, it's going to transform your thought life, your heart. It's going to bring in the fruits of the Spirit. It's going to get you thinking the way that you need to be thinking. And find the genre that speaks to you. that can do that. But having scripture, and worship that you are digesting or that you are singing is going to have a mental benefit, guaranteed.
I love that idea of feeding your mind.
Yes.
My chapter for this year is Philippians 4. So love that chapter. I handwrite it out several times a week.
That's a good idea. I love that discipline.
But right smack in the middle of that chapter is the whole, whatever things are true and whatever things are just and whatever things are honorable and whatever things are pure and whatever things are lovely, right? Think on these things. And it's just this idea of what am I consuming, especially what am I mindlessly consuming? Because we all mindlessly consume all the time. So why not just be intentional about mindlessly consuming something that's helpful for me? And I love what you said about, a song will just hit you, because I do think there are times when you can hear a song that you've heard 100 times. And it just, in that moment, it's like, I hear that in a different way, and I hear those lyrics in a different way, and it means something different to me today. And maybe it's what's going on in my life right now, or maybe it's something I heard on Sunday or in my small group or wherever else it was. And all of a sudden, this is something that's really starting to form me. Yeah. And, the Spirit's using it to change me. So I love that. That's good stuff.
Yeah. A quick aside. We had chapel every day we were students at Cedarville for 4 years. If you had me pull a handful of chapels that I remember, one that I remember and have gone back to many, 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 many times was on Philippians 4, and your dad preached it.
Really?
Still remember it.
I probably wasn't there.
It might have been before you got there.
I don't know what this guy's going to say, but I probably already heard it.
I grew up with this. I don't need to hear that. I'm skipping today. But just still remember that today.
Yeah. Boy, it'd be interesting to go back and think about how many chapels I actually remember. There's not going to be very many. But I do remember David Wilkinson.
Yes, Bruce Wilkinson.
Bruce Wilkinson.
With
his 3 chairs.
Yes,
just because of the 3 chairs.
I remember it well.
Good stuff. Yeah, but you're at Cedarville now.
Yes,
you're gone. Did you ever think, like when you were sitting in class? We're not going to say how many years ago.
Yes, thank you.
I have a big one coming up this fall.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Did you ever think, I wonder if someday I'm going to be back here teaching?
I don't think that ever crossed my mind. Not while I was a student there. Mm-hmm. Years after it did, before, even before I did that, where I thought, oh, that would be kind of fun. But no, I never thought about that.
Yeah. So you're a busy guy. You're a CEO and you're a president.
And yes, both.
2 full-time jobs. You're a husband, you're a dad, you're all that stuff.
Yes.
Right? By the way, our mutual friend Brian.
Yes.
Says that your wife is really the star of your family.
He's not wrong.
Yeah.
He probably spent more time in school around her than he did around me, and he's not wrong.
Yeah. So how do you find the time to also drive out to Cedarville once a week? And why do you find the time to do that?
Now that the curriculum is created, that I kind of created for both of those classes, and I would do that, Saturday afternoons or Sunday afternoons, sitting watching a football game or something and putting that together. And that took some time. But the nice thing is now I just have to kind of go over it, maybe grade some papers. But it has always been impressed upon me, and probably even at my time about Cedarville, the role that mentoring plays. And mentoring isn't always sitting down and having a specific Bible study. Sometimes just being in the lives of people and living their life with them, offering encouragement. And so that has been an important part of my career. The college professor that was the biggest mentor to me, Jim Leitenheimer, is retiring this year. Oh, and he was there a decade before I was there. So it's like, and he still looks young. Like, I don't know how he pulls it off. But like, I still remember the role that he played in my life as a student and even years after that. And there are people like that built into me when I was in college, because a lot of times that's the first time, because you're away from home and you're out of the house, that you're really going, is this faith mine? Or is it my parents? Or is it where my youth group or my youth pastors? Is it really my faith? And this is, it's such a time, and it's like, I want to go, you know what? You can live this kind of life your whole life. Is it easy? Are the answers simple? No, not always. Yeah. But you know what? It's right and it's true. And if I can model that, if I can help students wrestle through that, if I can help them with job connections, if I can help them with mentoring. And so while I certainly don't want to do that to the exclusion of my kids, and I've got 4 kids, it's easier now. I only have one left at home, and she's in college. She's a commuter. But, one night a week, I just wouldn't come home. I didn't get home till late that night. So it really didn't take another night a week. And I just made sure I was engaged with them, so I was involved in their church youth group, working with kids. And I, made sure we did stuff as a family, because I think if you do that and you're gone all the other nights of the week at work, that's probably not beneficial as a parent. That's bad.
Yeah. I mean, family's got to come first.
Oh, totally.
But I love that you are investing in the next generation. Because I think, and maybe this is just what happens when you get to our age, but I think the kids who are growing up today have it a lot worse than we did. And I think it's a lot harder, especially if you want to stay in the faith. I think it's a lot harder.
Yeah.
And so anybody who's willing to say, I want to invest in the next generation, especially the next generation of Christians, I think that's just a powerful thing. I'm going to take just a second here for a commercial for our church.
I love it.
Because we want to be a church that's investing. And so let me just tell you a couple ways you can do that. One is, this is not the first time you've heard this, work in kids ministry, right? We need lots of people. Even if you're scared of kids, you can still hold babies. So we need you doing that. And secondly, there are a lot of our ministries that are designed around investing in the next generation. So contact Annie, learn more about things like the Victory Project and Family Promise, where you can have an incredible impact on people in the next generation and be a part of that investment. So I love that you're doing that.
Quick aside again.
Yes.
There was 2.5 years that I got out of radio. And I needed to leave. I couldn't find another radio job. I was a children's pastor and a men's pastor, and I loved children's ministry, and I split the role, and I did more of the preschoolers, and I loved it. And my wife carried a big load of that, especially managing the 2-year-old room, but I did that, so I love children's ministry.
I vaguely remember this. we must have had a conversation at some point in there. That's fascinating. So as if you don't have anything else to do on top of being a CEO and a president and a college professor.
Yes.
You just launched a podcast.
I did.
And your most recent episode is with Clark Kellogg.
Yes.
So my big question about Clark, how tall is he?
He is got to be 6'10". He's so tall. At that point, are you 6'10"? Are you 7'2"? Maybe the people up at that height.
You think so? I'll tell you what. I get neck cramps trying to look in their eyes.
I've had people just go like, when you shook hands with him, because there's obviously a lot of podcasts like this. There's an audio and a video version, and people are like, when he shook your hand just disappeared. I'm like, yes, he's a big guy. Guy. I think I don't come up to his shoulder, and he's a big guy.
Yeah.
But
So I had to ask you about this.
Yes.
He's an Ohio State guy.
Yes. Played at Ohio State, I think, in the very, very early 80s.
Yep. So he's also played pro ball a little bit.
Yep. Indiana Pacers, poor injuries took him out.
Yep. But really more well known for being a broadcaster, college basketball. That's where most people know him.
Yep.
By the way, it's too late to fill out your brackets.
Yes.
Right.
Too
but
late.
if you didn't pick Michigan State, you're probably going to lose.
It's true. Which is why I picked Michigan State.
I appreciate it. As a Buckeye fan.
Yes.
Now, did you know that the Buckeyes and the Spartans played each other this week in the Big Ten Hockey Championship?
I was aware of that. Yes.
And who won that game?
That I was not aware of. I didn't hear the score of that.
So true story, I actually went to bed. It went to double overtime. And I don't remember if it was Saturday night or Friday night, but I had a big day the next day. It was Saturday night, obviously. And I went to bed and got up in the morning, and Sparties won. So I was pretty happy about that. So where can people find your podcast?
Couple places. The name of the podcast, I'm a big coffee guy. That's my love language.
I love it.
So
we should have talked about coffee. We really should have.
So I love coffee. So it is Leadership and Lattes.
Okay.
That is the name. So if you look for that on virtually any podcast app, also if you Google that, there are a couple things similar, but Leadership and Lattes on YouTube.
Yeah.
Or if you go to riverradio.com and click on podcasts, you'll find it listed there.
See, the dad in me that wants to drop dad jokes is wondering, why not be like a latte leadership?
Ooh, you see,
or just leadership.
Why did I not go to you when we were naming this? Because I connected with some folks, and clearly I was wrong.
The thing is, we actually have a little machine out here in our office, and a lot of the young kids, they're always making their lattes and whatever. I just drink it black.
Amen.
Yeah, but
actually,
so
that's
they're like,
primarily what
somebody
I do.
will shout out and, hey, will you make me a latte? And me, being the oldest guy in the office, always have to say, are you sure you don't want a little?
I love that.
All right.
It's so beautiful.
Can you tell us who your next guest is? Are you allowed to do that yet?
I am. A couple other guests coming up. The next guest, a dear friend of mine, but probably unknown to anybody. His name is Danny Ortiz.
Okay.
And he is a pastor, but is primarily, in fact, he has his own podcast called The Wave. But Danny is just a lover of people. And it's just great to hear his heart for connecting with the lost. He's like the pastor of a coffee shop in Columbus, where he is at all the time. But he's a fantastic guy. Another basketball name that's coming up this season, Michael Redd.
Oh, I remember him.
And
played with Scooney Penn.
He played with Scooney Penn.
Those
they were
guys,
a Final
those
Four
guys
team.
were so good together.
Yes, they were.
Yeah.
And also was on the Redeem team, has an Olympic gold medal, played with Kobe and LeBron.
Okay.
And played most of his, almost all of his career up in Milwaukee. And in fact, Giannis, if you're an NBA fan, Giannis just beat his
Can you say his last name?
Antetokounmpo. That may or may not be correct.
Really,
I don't know.
No idea.
That's as close as I come to saying it correctly. Yeah. So, but yeah, Michael's. So Michael will be on the podcast, and
very cool, very cool. So if you're watching, you can see that Bill is a very interesting person, and great podcast. And we've been talking about filling your mind. Right now, this isn't mindless content, but this is good filling your mind.
There you go. Correct.
So check out Leadership and Lattes. Lots of good content there, especially you Ohio State people. Get some of your old Buckeyes in there
for sure.
So I want to wrap up with some just kind of really quick questions that we're going to see if we can stump you.
Oh,
all right?
I love it.
They're not hard. Who's your favorite Bible character?
Oh man. It's probably, I don't know that I've ever spent time thinking about that. I might have to say Paul.
Okay.
Going absolutely 100% the wrong direction, turned it around, going 100% the right direction, but then also a lot of hiccups and stumbles and things along the way, but just was always turning back to the Lord and trying to get it right.
All right, that's good. I mean, you can't go wrong with Paul. I mean, he wrote like a third of the Bible,
exactly,
so that's a winning choice. All right, who is someone in your life that has made a significant impact on you?
Probably the person I think of most, and there's been a lot, is my dad. He was a missionary and then a pastor. He started an evangelism and discipleship ministry to guys in the Navy at Great Lakes Naval Training Center in the Chicago area, then moved back to a church in the Columbus area where he retired after 35 years. And he was never the head of anything, but he showed up faithfully every day through the good times, the bad times, the hard times, the difficult times. He showed up for people, but he showed up for his family. And he just was always there, and I will always remember that. He's still with us, thankfully. He's doing well, and he's probably my hero.
Love it. What's the best decision you've ever made?
Oh man,
you don't have to do the Jesus juke here and be like, being saved. You don't have to do that. That's assumed.
That's assumed. If I had to think about it, and I think of where my life is today. If I had not married my wife, my life would be radically different. I don't know that it would be better, worse. I don't pretend to know any of that. But I remember we got married and there was an opportunity, to go back and be an RD at Cedarville. And she was like, absolutely not. Hey, do you want to go? I had been a camp counselor at a great camp in Southern Ohio, Scioto Hills. I'm on their board now. I love the camp. Hey, do you want to come work at Scioto Hills? And I'm like, both of those. I'm like, and she's like, absolutely not. And just has really kept me. And I think I just thought I will love those things. And I'm not sure they were what God had for me. It was just like, I love doing that. That would be great. And I think about my kids and the people that they are becoming. And I think my wife had a tremendous amount to do with that. Yeah. And so I would say that's probably the best decision I ever made was marrying her.
I think that's the right answer. I mean, I look at my own life and I'm like, most of the best things in my life are the result of being married to Marianne. I mean,
Boy, that's, yeah, well said.
As I think about the best things in my life, almost all of them wouldn't be there without her. So, I mean, it just makes sense. That's a great answer. All right, last question.
Yes.
What's the best piece of advice that you can offer to people based on the life you've lived up to this point?
I would have to say it's a quote from Zig Ziglar. And I love this. Like, if, you know, I love having like life verses and stuff, but if there's like a life piece of advice that he said, and I really try to live this, and he said, you can have everything in life that you want if you just help enough other people get what they want.
Yeah.
And really, life is about, and again, wrap your faith in that, you know, wrap scripture all around that. But if you're just seeking to serve other people, what you want, all your dreams are going to come true in that, because you have lived a life of service.
Yes. I love that. Can I tweak it a little bit?
I would love that.
I mean, I don't know if we're allowed to tweak Zig Ziglar.
You can.
I would recommend when you listen to him, put it at least on 1.5 speed. 2 times is better, because he already talks fast.
Oh man.
And it's, yeah.
That would be good. I love that.
But I would say this, and because I think he's right.
Yes.
And, you know, the idea of adding value to people's life. But I think the real secret sauce in that is that as you begin to do that, a lot of the things that you think you wanted, you realize you don't want anymore. And the things that you should want, you begin to want. And so it's like, yes, I get what I want, but it's not necessarily what I thought I was going to want. We just become so much healthier when we reach out to other people. So
As that, I'm gonna stamp that right on there. I'm behind that 100%. I love it.
All right, man. I'm so glad you came today. This was fun.
This was exciting for me, man.
We'll see
I
if people liked it, and if they did, maybe we can bring you back sometime.
Let's do it.
VIP round 2. We'll talk about coffee. Yeah,
I would love that.
All right, we'll
Dude,
do it.
this is so fun.
Yeah, thank you. So I've got to do the closing here. I don't usually do it.
Ooh.
So I don't know if I'm gonna get it right, but I'm gonna do my best. So I think I'm supposed to say something like, "Thanks for being with us on the Gathering Greenhouse. Until we're together again, keep it real and keep it rooted." Something like that.
I like that.
So, all right. Thanks, guys.